One of the biggest worries for a game master running a Hexcrawl campaign is that your players will struggle to know what to do. They can do anything, you exclaim, yet having that complete freedom often makes the players feel analysis paralysis. It's often why I hear in the comments about how sandbox games won't work or you need a very specific player to make the game work. I don't think that's necessarily true. Your players do need to be in the right mindset to play in a sandbox game to make it thrive. But I think that you can have those discussions with your players ahead of time to really get their brains primed for that mindset. Still, even if you have that down, you know the risk of your players struggling to choose a plan and go with it can be very real. That's why you as the game master can and should help facilitate their choices. You're not there to force them down a particular path, but rather you're there to set bait in different areas to see what they'll bite on. Hi, welcome back aboard the Earthmote. I'm Randall, and today we're talking about hex crawls and how to encourage your players to explore your hex crawl and engage with the world around them. If you use some of these ideas, I believe your players will have a bunch of clear and specific options they can choose, and that'll help your game become self-sustaining. But before we go any further, I have a special announcement I'd like to make, so take it away, other Randall. Hey everybody, I'm excited to announce Enchanted Nimbus issue number 1. This is the Earthmote monthly newsletter. My hopes with the newsletter is to share different videos, blog posts, and products that are really highlighting the creativity of the RPG community, as well as contributing my own unique blog posts to the newsletter. The first issue is all about hex crawls, so sharing a lot of different content out there that has really helped me create my hex crawl sandboxes. And I've included my own blog post on offering some tips on how you can fill out those keys if your creativity is starting to run dry as you try to populate your map. So if an RPG newsletter sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing to Enchanted Nimbus. It would really mean a lot to me. Thanks for listening. Back to the regular scheduled video now. The main way your players will make choices is by you providing information to them. You should have hooks and rumors that help give your players different seeds of adventure and information for them to act on. These should be sprinkled with NPCs, monsters, locations, and points of interest. Give your players a lot of these hooks and clues to different secrets and mysteries you have in your world. Entice them with prospects of treasure, magic, and other aspects of power. Now, what you want to do with these hooks and rumors is have them point to other hexes on your map. Let them know what reside in other hexes or areas of your game world. You're providing them context for areas yet unseen or offering them further information on places they've already been. Ultimately, though, if you want them to act on that information, they're going to need to move through the world and continue to explore it because the information points to a hex further away. So you're giving the players a reason to continue to explore and travel. If they want to find out if the rumor is true or if the hook provides them that treasure, they got to go out and they got to explore. Of course, those next expeditions will result in more hooks and rumors. As a result, your hex crawl can self-sustain itself for a long time as your players continue to travel, collect more rumors and hooks, and continue to move across the map as they learn more information. There are a couple of easy ways to implement it, but before we get to that, there's an easy way you can help me out, and that's by hitting the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. The first way is to build your hooks and rumors directly into specific locations and NPCs that occupy your hexes. This character knows X, or this adventurer's journal knows Y, and it was dropped in a specific crypt waiting to be found. These are essentially static hooks and rumors. They stay attached to a single element within your hex crawl, and your players must find that specific element in order to learn that information. The second way is to build a random rumor table that you can roll on and give out information as your players interact with different elements in your hex. This lets your rumors and hooks be dynamic. Say the players meet a merchant caravan on the road and chat with them. Well, they know random entry on your rumor table. I really enjoy this method because it lets me be just as surprised as the players about what information they're learning, and it can take the game in a totally different direction than I expected, all because of some random rolls on different tables that you have in your toolkit. If you go this route, I recommend using the same rumor table for a cluster of hexes. That way you don't have to make a table for each individual hex. That would just be a lot of extra work. Just make sure that your rumors on the table for each cluster of hexes is pointing to other areas outside of that cluster of hexes. Say you have 4 hexes that are using the same table. Every rumor entry that points to a different hex should exclude those 4 hexes and be others across your map. That way you don't have any confusing sort of cross references within your table and they're in the hex, but you're saying it's pointing to a different hex or something like that. Ultimately, if you have the time and energy, I recommend using both methods because both have their merits and values and let you provide static information where it makes sense, but also have that sort of dynamic information that you can dole out based off of the different encounters and choices that the players make that might sort of add kind of that random variety and spice to the game to keep things interesting and exciting, both for you and your players. So there's value in both methods, really helping you facilitate that information flow directly to your players. Factions are a great source of action in your Hexcrawl game. They're always doing something. Your factions and important NPCs are likely to have an area of influence on your hex map. This could be a portion of a single hex, or it could be multiple hexes clustered together. It's really up for you to decide. I recommend signposting these areas of influence pretty clearly. Perhaps there's established fortifications in the hex, or a giant wizard's tower, or maybe there's obviously ravaged lands surrounding a dragon's lair. Now, the most obvious way these NPCs and factions will promote travel by the players is providing them with encounters, hooks, rumors, and potential quests. This aspect does kind of bleed back into the first tip, which is using NPCs to spread rumors and hooks. But for power factions and NPCs, it can be focused a bit differently. Instead of a minor NPC offering a hook or rumor in a more passive way, such as maybe news they've heard or a story they've heard and are willing to pass on, these factions and NPCs are offering hooks and rumors directly related to their own business. Your NPCs and factions should have goals, things they want done in the world. And perhaps there are reasons they need something done outside of their area of influence. They maybe could do it for themselves, but they could also ask a group of adventurers to do their dirty work for them. The other way you can use factions and NPCs to promote travel is by having the factions extend beyond their area of influence. This is when they're trying to actively achieve something. Now, as a result of this, you can have rumors travel to the party about these actions, which may hook them into checking out what's going on with these different factions, or you can have these expansionary activities directly affect the players or their allies. Or maybe it's their allies that are doing the expanding and they've called the PCs for aid. These are all great ways to encourage movement and exploration across the hexes. As your players learn about these factions and are involved in their conflicts or go to check out their conflicts, they really start to see this sort of get weaved into the hex map and help drive the action forward as they make different choices surrounding that information that they're getting. If you look at OSR treasure tables, you'll find the idea that the treasure map was quite common. The treasure map is this alluring idea, right? It offers this promise of wealth, and it sort of evokes the memories and these stories of these grand treasure hunts as people go off and try to strike it rich. Well, that's exactly what you can encourage in a Hexcrawl. Put treasure maps into the game. Give them clues about different landmarks and the different hexes that the players need to find and navigate by. Then they can ultimately find their treasure, but only after they've gone on this journey across your map. If you're utilizing some of the other tips above, then your players will have lots of other adventure fodder once they're done with their treasure hunt. They're likely to have encountered different NPCs or monsters along the way, and maybe different locations, and all of those are great sources where you could have fed them additional hooks and rumors about other things they might want to check out in the world once they've found their treasure hoard. I noticed that the treasure map didn't make its way into the 5th edition treasure tables. If you're running 5e and like to include treasure maps, you can check out older versions of the game to just borrow the different treasure map types and use those in your game, and I think you'd be fine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially the different maps had different treasure ranks to them, which basically meant the map led to a different size treasure hoard. It's one way to sort of randomly roll up the different amounts of wealth that can be found at the end of the treasure hunt. Alternatively, you can just set the value and then have the players find that. But adding in that random element is a lot of fun because you can include different magic items that you might not otherwise have done so, and it can lead to these different scenarios that your players can use those items for. So that's it. Consider using these different ideas to connect your hex map and encourage your players to travel across it. Ultimately, you're feeding your players information so they can make choices about the different actions they want to do within the game world. I promise that if you come up with some good hooks and rumors that encourage your players to travel around the map, they'll start to find more of them and they'll have lots of different directions they can take the game in, and they won't be struggling on what they want to do any longer. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. It really does help the channel out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you aboard the Earthmote again soon.